Hey everybody, today is going to be the next episode of the Photon Blox YouTube tutorials. So first things first, we're just going to recap a little bit here. We just finished setting up our login and connecting and authenticating to Photon and BrainCloud. So everything is working online now. We just need to start actually getting everything to play and everything like that. So first things first, we need a new scene. So let's create a new scene here. In this new scene, we're automatically going to want to create a blocks. So just an empty object and just call this GameManager. Add Plygame to this. Sorry if the typing is really loud. My keyboard just really sensitive. I've probably mentioned this before. My microphone just picks it up really easily. Anywho, in this we're going to add a state, and we're going to want to add a couple of photon events here. So first things first, we want we first want a onStateEnter. Then we're going to want our photon events, so unconnected to photon. We're going to need, so when you read unconnected to photon, so it's called when the initial connection gets established, but before you can use the server, onJoined lobby or unconnected to master are called when pun is ready. So now we're going to want to use our onPhoton unconnected to master. Now go back again into Photon through Ninjutsu Games. Yeah, my bad. Anyway, just continue following visually. If somehow I mess up with the words, I'm going to be going slow enough for you guys to visually follow this. We just added that we want onJoined lobby. We're also going to want unconnected to lobby. On where is it? On join lobby. I think that is all of them. And now we want onJoined room. And onJoining room, oh whoop, that's joining. We want onJoined, whoops. Go back there again, onJoined room. So onStateEnter, we're going to want to go into our photon here. We're going to want to auto join lobby, or hold on, we want to connect to photon. Yes, onStateEnter, we want to connect to photon with version. Now this is how you're going to prevent other clients from connecting when you release new versions. So let's close this. Let's go into our global variables here, and we're going to add a global variable, and it's going to be a int. We're going to want to call this version. You can call it whatever it is you really want to call it, as long as you know that it's 4, and this is going to be 1.0.0. Okay, so don't use int, use float if you want to use point in between everything. So 1.1, 1.0.0, there we go. Now if we go back into our GameManager Plygame, we will now want to go into variables. We want to get global variable float. Oh, it is an integer. I think it's trying to do this, so we're gonna go to common here as Plygame as string. Okay, so this is doing it as a string for whatever reason. So We can always go back and change this to a string. We could technically leave that as a float as well if we wanted to. It'll still read it as a string, but it's good to just use everything that is everything. So string, now we want to go back into GameManager, variables, global string, get global string, version, and fall back to offline mode false. So that means it'll not connect to you, period, if it is not the right version that the server is running on. So if someone has a different client than you are and they're playing on and they're hosting a server with that client, your older client cannot connect to their client. Vice versa, they can't connect to yours. That is 100% something you really want to do, obviously, for updating. Now that you're connecting to Photon, unconnected to Photon is going to be called. You can now start calling some like random events here. So like if you want to do some notifications, unconnected to master, unjoined lobby. So connected to Photon, I believe now we're going to want to join lobby. Photon. Define if the Photon network should join the lobby when connected to the master server. Auto join lobby in the master server. There was another one, but what is it? Oh, join lobby. Just use Photon join lobby. And then on joined lobby, that's going to happen. We're going to go back. Oh, we're still here. Okay, cool. This is how we're going to spawn our character into the world here. Is on the on-join lobby, we now want to join or create room. So that means if the server exists or doesn't exist, you're going to join it anyway, and it'll create that room with the name. So you could end up doing this with a global name that you can set, like in your main menu later, which we will do later. For now, we'll just call this global. So it's a global server with unlimited players allowed to connect. It's going to create the room, and then on joined room is where we are now going to cast our spawn player. And yeah, we can just disable this right now because we actually don't have a player. But if you now look at this, we are connecting to Photon, we're joining the lobby, and then we are creating a room, and then we're going to spawn. Next, what we're going to want to do is actually create our player. For this tutorial, we're going to be building it with the top-down nav mesh controller, because I used the third-person controller in the other series that I was doing. So to change it up a little bit for you guys, just open up your asset store and let's download a character that at least has 3 animations. Oh, it looks like there might be an update to something. Plygame has updated, so always make sure you are updated. Excuse me. So let's just quickly update our Plygame here. Boom. I also forgot that I was sent a new update from the creator of Photon Blox, but I have not implemented the update yet, so this is still using 1.2.5, where the update I was sent is 1.3.0. So the next tutorial will include that update, and hopefully that update's going to reach the store soon, unless he's planning on making it a further update. I'm not sure yet, but again, expect an update for Photon Blox on the asset store pretty soon. For now, pretty much everything I'm doing should still work. There might be some sync issues and stuff like that, because that stuff hasn't been fixed in the current version that's on the asset store, but in the version I have, it has been highly reworked and stuff like that. So don't get too frustrated if things aren't fully working. When the update comes out, things should really kick into gear for you. Else, again, like I said, just wait to continue off the tutorials. So now that we're imported and updated, we can just get some anything here. So Plygame has some pretty decent character demo models we can use here. So we'll just download the Ply Proto pack. It's free on the asset store. It's pretty much just some cube men with arms and animations and stuff. So it's something for us to use for this tutorial. Again, you could use any asset that you want to help you build your game. You don't need to specifically follow me for that perspective. I apologize if there's any background noise. Doo-doo. Almost done. Ba 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 ba. There we go. Well, with that imported, quite the small asset as well, we can go back to our scene here. Let's just create a 3D terrain. Now this terrain is just a little bit big, so we can go into our settings here. Let's shrink this to about 350. If you're going to be making this for mobile, your world shouldn't be, your terrain probably shouldn't be bigger than 350. And then even then, I'd make sure that you have a lot of things enable and disable as you reach distances, and work your occlusion culling and stuff like that. We'll get more into that stuff later as well, but I just want you to know, let's not get started with a huge map if you're going mobile. If you're going Windows or Mac, then at this point 500 to 1,000 is no problem. That's a pretty large map that you're going to have for online. You probably could get it even bigger if you really take the time to do all the occlusion culling and all that other fancy stuff at the end of the game to help the performance in the end. For now, 350, she is good to go. Let's make sure that's good to go, and now we're going to want to negative, so 350. And then 125. Whoops. So that's generally centered now, which is decent. So we can work with this. First things first, let's just get an item out here, which is going to be a marker. So let's grab a location marker, pop it right here. Grab this, just lift it a bit above the surface. Let's click this, make sure that our terrain is walkable. Perfect. We will bake our terrain now, but it'll ask us to save the scene. Let's just call this scene 1, I guess. Doesn't really matter. Now that we have our nav mesh and everything, we're good to start playing our character. This is pretty much the location that our players can be spawning in, so if you want to go quick back to our GameManager here, make sure that you don't need that terrain parented to that, but anyway, we can unjoin room when we spawn player. We can actually spawn him at this marker. Now, depending on how you're using this, because the game manager is in the scene and so is the marker, you're able to just drag and drop and it'll remember its mark for it. But if you're doing this differently in any way, shape, or form that the game manager is being spawned in, you will have to use your object find by name, find child, or blah 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 to make sure that you're getting the correct item, and or just manually set the XYZ position with a math of XYZ in here. So there's a few ways for you to do that. So now the player will spawn at this point. Again, we do not have a player, so now we can finally get this started. Let's create an empty. We're going to call this player. We're now going to start adding our components to this. So Plygame, character, actor. We don't need to give it a name. We need to give ourselves 2 of these. Attribute 0, attribute 1. We can change the names if necessary. I'm not going to do that right now because I know what they're set to. Just HP and EXP, why not? Anyway, classes. We need 1 class so that this way we have everything ready. Yada yada. Let's class player. We don't need to worry about our faction right now, skills, anything like that. Perfect, we are good to go. There you go, we have our player. We can now go back into here, character, player. We want top-down nav controller. Perfect. Go back into there. We want animation. I believe that it is using legacy. So we can use legacy or we can use basic mechanim. So we're going to use basic mechanim, and I'm going to show you how to convert legacy animations to mechanim animations, or generic animations that can be used both ways. We will need an animator just to help that out here. We'll worry about the rest of that animator part in a second. Back to Plygame. Character, we got player animations. Okay, go back. We now want our item system, which is going to be equip slots. Again, item system, item bag, Photon Blox. We need camera, top-down camera. We're going to need, I think now Photon Blox. We want Photon character so that we can do all this. So we wanted to set as tag object. We want to do the movement, the speed, the skills, the target. We don't need to do our interaction, just targeting, because let's say you have stuff happening when you interact, like you open up a chat. You don't want to open up that chat on someone else's client, so that's why you wouldn't want interaction to sync over network. You want target to sync over network, so this way if you use something like on actor makes selection in that event, then you can force it to start using a skill that's auto queuing every time, so that this way both characters are casting the attack. Boom, 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 boom. We'll get more into that again later. So if you read in the Photon equipment slots, you need on equipped events and on unequipped events. You don't actually have to do anything with it, but it's just a temporary fix that the creator of Photon Blox went with at this point in time. That message will be here as long as this is needed, so always look out for this little message. So let's just go ahead and go to Play RPG, items, unequipped item and items on unequipped item. So now that we have those on there, we are good to go, and that'll work perfectly fine. We want to go back into here, Photon Blox. No. So Photon equip slots, yada yada. I'm pretty sure that that is all. I'm making sure of that myself manually here. Yep. Yep. Alright, yeah, that is everything. Our character is pretty much built. As you can see, there's nothing to it. So let's go ahead and find our apply proto character here. Let's grab a objects, axe, sword. I don't really care about characters. Here we go. Humanoid. And we want this humanoid right here. So we can just drag and drop him inside of our player. We can then zero this guy out here. 111, which is a decent scale. If you want to do a really good scale, it's always good to create a cube object right next to here. Set the height to 2, move up by 1, and make that about the height of your character or a little bit less, because that's about the height of what you want your doors-ish. Again, move the cube here so we can just scale this character a little bit here. And there we go. We can delete the cube now. Let's see, does it have the nav mesh? It did not auto, so add the nav mesh agent, because it didn't add that automatically. The radius 5, that's okay. Yeah. You're also going to want to add a capsule collider. The capsule collider is needed due to the fact that if you want to be able to target a player online, the capsule collider is needed. So that's how they interact with each other, and that's also how the NPC interacts with you. If you don't have a capsule collider and only your nav mesh agent, it will not be able to target you for an attack. So height is about 2, so we can raise this up here. We can go to about 2. Okay. And there we go. So 2, that's good enough right there. We are now going to make sure everything's okay. We have our animation right here, which isn't how we want this to happen. So when we click on our I actually do not see this having normally they have a white block where it's an FBX file, but this just seems to have what do you call it? It's already a prefab, and I don't see the here. Look, see, there's a plane, so it's an original, and you can get like model, rig, animation. I need that for all the characters here. Hold on. If I can find it, which would be nice. Oh, come on. Oh, perfect. I found the sources. Alright. So we can just go to rig, where it says legacy, set it to generic, and click apply. Now when you open up our character, it now has a humanoid avatar right here. So if we click on here, scroll all the way down, to where our animated controller is. We're looking for our avatar, so we can now click on our avatar here. We don't have an animator controller, so we can just create a new folder, call it animator controllers, and with animator controllers we could just go ahead and create a new animator controller. Call this player controller. We can open this up right here now. Easier if you move it up here. We have no states. We could just create an empty state, and this empty state is going to, of course, want, here we go, sources, model, animations, which one of these has the animations? Each of them has their own animation. Alright, so we want our walk animation here, so we also got to set the rig to this, to generic for each animation that we use. So walk, idle needs to be generic as well. Death will need to be generic for that point in time. We will need its tack stab and generic. Alright, so now we can just go to our motions here. We have would be better if we actually do it from this way, so source, let's take a tack stab here, and actually we want the idle, not the attack stab. We can still drop a tack stab right in there, just like that. Let's go back into here, sources, get our idle right into our idle, delete this, set as layer default, which is the idle here, and now we want the walk. If you have more than one idle, it's best to use a blend tree, but I don't have an idle right now that's going to be doing two-hander or single-hander, so when we get more into that, we will work on that. But for now, we're just trying to get you to log online, to walk around with some players and stuff. So idle, we need our walk quickly here, sources, here's our walk. Now we want to make transition and then make transition. This transition is going to happen when a couple of parameters happen. So we need float, float, float. We need 4 floats. Trigger, bool, trigger. Now I need to click on this character here. So we need crap. Speed, forward, left, right. Speed, forward, left, right. Da, 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 da. Now we need jump, grounded, on death, dead. Trigger. So it means I'm going to need another trigger. Jump is going to be a trigger. Grounded is going to be a bool, and then trigger bool. Or am I getting that wrong? You know, it's actually been a few days since I've actually did this particular part. Well, we'll get back to the rest of them. Right now we only need our speed forward, left, right, and our jump. And in the next tutorial I will fill that in. I don't feel like hurting my brain and wasting more time right now. So to get to our idle, we want speed greater than 0.1, and then return to idle if speed is less than 0.1. Actually less than 1. So this way it'll start as soon as it goes up, but then it'll finish the walk a little bit before so that it helps sync a little bit. So you could always adjust this final number to help a better walk cycle at any point in time. So there you go, we have our walk and idle. Now we're going to want to save our player, so we can just save it in our assets folder for now. We can delete it. We now need to go to our Photon Blox here. We have our network settings. We need to add our prefab to the catch, so make sure we add our player prefab to the catch. Go to our actors here, player manager, and we want to add our player also to the player manager and the player prefab. There we go. Now I do not think I am missing anything right now, so let's just go ahead and do a hopeful test and see what happens. I believe I did not set floor. Yoy, come on. I'm trying to click on you, Mr. Password. Okay, anyway. There we go. I should probably fix that for the next tutorial so it's easier for you guys to see. Anyway, play now to log in. Scene world cannot be loaded. I forgot to add it to the build settings. Do not forget that. Open scene. There we go. And we can try this one more time. So authentication succeeded. We can now play. Yes, I am using my Unityscape's UI, but that's because I built it off of the original, like I said, example that came with, it was the original example that came with my, with Photon Blox at the time, so I just kind of used that to help show you guys the proper way to do it. We need to go into the lobby here, and our play now is trying to load the wrong map. We need it to load scene 1. There we go. We forgot to add our photon view component, and somehow the player manager is not correctly set up. So first things first, let's go back to our player photon view, as if that's the one thing I forget, and pretty much the biggest thing that is needed. Photon view, get rid of that. It's going to be at the photon character, yada yada, variable version, string version, and the global variables, add 1.0.0. There we go. We'll save this. and then for whatever reason there's apparently something wrong with this, which I do not see. So let's just give it a try, shall we? So we're loading in, no errors. Of course, our character has loaded in here. Only problem is I forgot to on state enter. You want to in the GameManager you can do this, but I'd honestly say that it's best to do this in the player. So on state enter. We then want to go to GUI, hide load screen. You could use hide all screens if you're using the screen system, just in case, but the only thing for the screen systems I use is the load screen. Save. Oh yes, I want this to be set to floor layer, and for whatever reason that character was not standing in that's why I have to actually set the controller. So I made the animated controller, but we have to make sure the controller is in the animator. Boom. Now when we log into the game, everything should be working for you to walk, and even log in another player, you guys will be able to walk and stuff. So play now. We're loading in. We seem to be working. We can walk. I have not set the animation walk to looping. I also need to set the idle animation to looping, but if you notice, it is working. We are connected, so let's fix our animations, because that's honestly really annoying. So idle animation, loop time. You don't need to loop pose. We also want to do this with the walk. Make sure you apply, and loop time, apply, save, log in one more time, and everything will look pretty smooth. Well, the animation's looking pretty smooth. He's walking. Gotta raise his turn speed, and there happens to be a little bit of a interesting effect going on with that animation, which I'm not sure why. Maybe looping the pose on this one would actually be a good start. I normally do loop pose, but whatever. If it helps, it helps. It doesn't, it doesn't. We'll see if loop pose also helps or if not. Because one time I used a loop pose and it made my character move funny. There seems to be an odd delay, but that'll be definitely fixable. It could even be due to the animations that I'm using, but I'm trying to figure this out. Hey, that's why. There's the idle animation that starts like this, and the walk kind of gets like this. So loop this as well. We'll see what happens here. Worst comes to worst, I will just see why that happens later. But for the most part, if it's a paid-for asset like the ones I use in my current game, I even just made my own animations. It just seems like this animation has a slow start to it. It's telling me that it wants to mark these as legacy, but you can see that it is still usable. There we go. And right now, if you were to connect, you can start walking around with other players. No problems at all now. I'm thinking that I'm going to leave this tutorial just at this. You're now connected with your player. I have much more to explain in the next tutorial that would take too long to explain in this, so keep posted. I'll probably release a tutorial in a day or two. Thanks for watching, guys. If there's anything that you're having trouble with, feel free to ask. I don't know. I'm here for questions and to help you guys out. As far as I know, I'm the next best person with the most of the knowledge to Photon Blox. I've had lots of work with it, and if you look through my page, my YouTube page, you will see my Unity Skate project looking flawless already. I just got to add a lot more monsters and stuff to it, then eventually quests, but the main core mechanics of combat and everything, PvP, monster fighting, shared monster fighting, all that good stuff, it's all happening now. So again, I ramble a little bit, but hey, stuff that you need to know. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next episode.